Well, it's Thursday evening and Mr. Ginger and I are definitely feeling the heat. Nevertheless though, we must crack on, and the first job is to measure up and cut a bit to go on that back wall. Right, so that fits pretty well when it's tucked up into that edge trim. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut a corner trim to go down there, and we'll probably fix that in position, and then when I put it in, I'll put it into the corner trim first and then slip it up into the top trim. Well, I've got this trim sort of mocked up in position. You can see I've got a bit of a problem here. I didn't cut that trim short enough so that it goes behind this cove, which is not really my intention. I want this trim to go into the cove rather than the cove to come up to meet it. So I've marked this with a pen, and now I'm going to knock that down a little bit. Oops, if I can. There we go. I'm just going to trim this off with a Stanley knife very carefully. So there we go, I've done that, and that now sits reasonably well in there. So the thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this board off again. I'm going to glue this trim in position on, obviously the tongue is behind that board there, so that tongue can be glued to the structure of the van, and then that side also will take a bead. There's a little V groove in the back there, see that? And that'll take a bead of adhesive as well. Well, the next thing I think will be to take the window out. I think if I undo these stays and flip the window up, the glass will just come off. Then I can undo the rest of the screws and pop the lining out. See what happens. Well, actually you can't just flip that window out, you have to undo that block there, and then I think take the end off there and slide it off there. I did start to ease this rubber away, and it's actually got an adhesive behind it, so I'm actually going to leave that well alone and still carry out my original plan of marking that window from the outside, but I'm just going to do it from the trim and then make an allowance for the clearance that I need. So I'm going to put that board back in and then mark it up. So the aim, of course, is to get that tucked underneath that rubber. So I need to measure a goodly distance, because I don't want to make this harder than it needs to be, but I do want to get it tucked underneath there. So I reckon maybe if I allow something like 14 mil, I'm going to say. So now I need to mark carefully 14 mil all around there and cut it out. Well, I've just done a little test fit and I think that's going to work, so let's go for it. I'm going to take a similar approach and apply the adhesive to the wall rather than the board, so that I don't make a horrendous mess. But I'm going to be sure to keep the area around the window relatively clear of adhesive, because I'm going to need to bend that out to get that rubber in. It's going to be a bit of a challenge, but let's give it a shot. I'm pretty pleased with that. I reckon a lot of you buggers thought I'd messed that up, didn't you, on my previous record? But I like that. It's very good. Right, now let's put the window back together. Right, definitely time for a cup of tea. Right, let's measure up for the edging trims for this back wall. Well, Ginge, old mate, it's getting late again. What say you we pack up now and carry on with this perhaps tomorrow? Oh, well, it's Saturday today and the weather's really changed. It's gone quite wet, but we do need to crack on and get this done. But I've had some deliveries from eBay. Now the first one is, is this shower head. Now it's a little bit smaller than it appeared on eBay, as most things seem to be, but it's a special water saving one. It only operates when you press that down, so you have to hold it and give yourself a good hose off with it. Now it is slightly confusing. Now it was listed as ideal for caravans, motorhomes, boats and such, but it does say it's not suitable for use with electric or pumped showers. Now, our shower isn't electric, but it is pumped. Well, it's pumped with an electric pump. I can't imagine that any caravans, motorhomes or boats don't have pumps powering the showers. They can't be sort of gravity operated. There's no caravans or motorhomes with big sort of header tanks on the roof. So I'm thinking that probably means like a power shower type pump. But we'll try it and see anyway. I've also had delivered this shower head bracket. Now unfortunately the shower head, tiny though it is, doesn't really sit in the bracket. And maybe once the hose is on, maybe the hose will sit in there. And of course you'll have to lift it out to use it. So we'll see if this is okay once the hose arrives. Right, well I'm going to carry on installing the cladding. It's going to be much in the same way, so I'm not going to show you in great detail how I do the others, because it's all going to be very similar to the other ones, but let's just crack on through it, shall we? I'm looking forward to showering in the van. Being self-contained is the plan. We can use campsites to digest a field with a tap or two. Use the toilet in the van if we need a poo. When it's full, I empty the cassette. Don't let the splashback get me wet. If the job's too big, don't stand and frown. Just use a stick to push it down. There's a reason campsites all have speed humps. The motion helps break up the lumps. Remember in the shower you really oughta try not to use too much water, 'cause it'll make you scream and shout if you're lathered up when it runs out. Well, that's the main parts of the lining in now. The next thing to do, I think, will be to put the toilet back in. But first, I'm going to go and have some lunch. Cool, I'm ready for this. Well, that was a nice lunch, but now I think it's time to crack on again, eh? What do you reckon, boy? Well, you can see we've finished off, as well as the end panel behind me, these two side panels, and they're looking okay, I think. It has produced some sort of fairly scrappy corners, but I think we'll be able to deal with this when we put the silicone on, along with some of these open joints. But the next job now, I think, is to put the toilet back in. So I'm going to have a bit of a clean up of this area and then a clean up of the toilet, and then we'll tackle getting it back into something like the right position. Right, there we go. Let's screw it all back down again. Right, now I've got to clean up those fill-in pieces. I actually forgot about this angle bracket. I'm hoping I can get that screwed in and then just bend that down again to get it to fit. But let's offer them up and see if they need anything trimming off them. Yeah, basically they're all going to need 1.5mm trimming off them. This one in 3 different directions, and these two really just in one direction. This front piece, of course, the dimensions that haven't really changed, so that can stay the same, so we'll leave that there. And then this piece will need these corners easing quite a lot more, I think. Well, it seems like I have got to take the toilet back out again to put that back trim in, because I need to get to the angle bracket on the side wall of the van to screw it in, and that's just impossible with the toilet there. But I think I'd have had to put the toilet in anyway to trial fit to get the amount that I had to trim that down by. So I don't think I've actually wasted too much effort there by having to put it in, take it out and put it back in again. Of course, I didn't really have to fix it with every single screw. So I'm going to take the toilet out again, and then we'll fix that back trim, then put the toilet back in again, then we can fix the side trims. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, instead of having the screws and caps that were on there before, I'm going to countersink the screws, and then we can put some of the white cladding over the top of that plywood, just to keep it all looking nice and clean and the same. Well, the next thing to do perhaps is to cut a piece of the cladding to go around there. I'm going to try and do it in one piece because that joint there would be a little bit awkward. First though, I'm going to peel back the film from these coves so they don't get trapped underneath it. I think first though, it's time for a cup of tea, don't you, mate? Yeah, I reckon so. So that's pretty much all the cladding done, apart from some angle trim that I want to get to tidy up some of the areas. I'm going to put an angle trim along there, and we'll need a bit of angle on there before we silicone up. So I think now we can remove all this film off the cladding. Well, I guess you can start to get an idea of the effect I'm aiming for. Obviously it'll be much better once I've got all those joints silicone sealed and such, but yeah, obviously I'm just hoping that this will be a pretty nice waterproof enclosure. That big white plain wall, look. Well, I've also had another delivery this morning, and I think it's more material for this little project, so let's have a look and see what we got. Well, there we go, it's some pieces of 6mm white perspex, and that's for me to carry on with this little job. So I'll leave you to see if you can guess what I'm going to do with this. Well, now that does bring me to a bit of a stop, because I need to go and get some clear silicone and some white silicone to seal all those joints. Well, that's all for now. If you enjoyed it, press like. Subscribe if you want to see some more, and ring the bell to be notified when we upload something new.